I decided to put the deck project on hold just for a little bit, which kills me to do because I hate stopping on a project halfway through. But we've been having one of the wettest winters we've ever had around here, and frankly I've just been getting sick of working in the rain. It's definitely not deck building weather. I decided to switch gears and work on getting the barn closed up. It's just this last wall that I need to side, and then I'll be able to lock the barn up and start keeping things inside it. I had to get a little inventive with the framing. This wall wasn't ever intended to be closed up, I don't think. It was basically just a covered area to park things, but I thought it would really increase the floor space of the barn, tying it into the main area. So I poured some concrete as the foundation for the wall to sit on, and did my best to frame it in. Admittedly, a little unconventionally. Just like everything I do on the barn, I have to take about 5 steps backwards before I can start taking steps forwards. Or sometimes even a slide backwards before I can start moving forwards. I think the barn was added on a couple times, which is why it's got this weird roof structure up top here. I needed to pull all the old boards off and the tar paper and get down to just bare studs. One of my regrets about when I first started working on the barn is that I wasn't careful enough pulling down the old boards. I don't think I realized just how cool all that old wood is. Now I take the time to pull every single nail and be as gentle on the boards as possible, saving every piece I can. Before I could put up the plywood sheathing, I needed to cut some nailers. The 1x12 boards I'm going to use on the outside need to have some cross members to nail to. And I think it's also better for the plywood as well. I worked my way up the wall, and I also had to frame around the support for the post of the overhang next to it. Once the wall was covered with the plywood, I started wrapping it in Tyvek. But I ran out, and it was too late for the trip to town, so I was have to stop there for now. Also ran out of staples at the same time. I wanted to keep working though, since I had the evening free, so I started putting up some of the boards on the area that I did have enough Tyvek for. It was now getting close to midnight, and it was St. Paddy's Day. Probably a good thing I don't know any Irish people. They would have been a little upset with me for not going out partying. I made most of the cuts with my circular saw, and then used the jigsaw to cut out the last bit of corner. These are fir 1x12s that I had milled for me. I wish I had enough old barn wood to cover this wall, but I didn't, so I had to get some new stuff made. It's definitely going to contrast against the old wood, but I kind of think that 10 years from now you won't be able to tell. And I might try weathering it this summer. I know there's some ways you can mix up different solutions and it'll take out some of the color. Once again, the deck gods were not looking upon me favorably, so I ripped down some boards and got to work trimming out the garage door. I'm starting to abuse my nail gun quick edit privileges. That's the last one, I promise. Next, I ripped down some 2-inch strips that'll be the bat, since I guess this is called board and bat siding, right? All of these pieces I pre-drilled because I knew they'd split pretty easily. I used decking screws on these to get through the 1 inch of board underneath and all the way back into the studs. And the long screws really pulled the boards down tight underneath them. Before I could put the 2-inch strips on this upper part here, I needed to trim some of the tin roofing. I just used the angle grinder for this. And I just about sliced my jugular open. The angle grinder leaves a gnarly edge on that stuff after cutting it. Finally getting a little bit of decent weather. Just gonna try to take advantage of it. I wasn't quite sure the proper way to seal up the gap between this wall and the roof. I just thought I'd use some of this wide flashing here, and I had to cut off the 2-inch strips so I could attach it to the wall. Looked a little goofy, but I put the strips over the top of the flashing. I just didn't know how to do this. Maybe somebody has a better idea that I should have done. I think it'll work pretty good though, as far as keeping the water from getting in between the building and the roof. With the sheathing and the 12-inch wide boards and the 2-inch strips, this sticks out on the wall a lot further than the old siding did. And actually the roof on the other side of the building doesn't cover it. So I needed to stick a piece of flashing on top too, I thought, so water wouldn't get in behind the wood. Using some quarter flashing, I bent it into a little bit tighter of an angle to match this roof line, and then fastened it down with some roofing screws. I thought it would look pretty nice having a couple nighttime lights on either side of the garage door. And it'll be really practical too, because it's really dark on this corner of the barn at night. I cut out a hole for the electrical box. And then got the plate I made for the fixture attached to the wall. Ran some wire from the other side of the barn. It's hard work doing electrical, but it's kind of satisfying for me. I like finding ways to keep the wire kept neat and out of the way. Especially in the barn here, where there'll be some exposed rafters up top. I prefer to keep the wiring hidden when possible. These were kind of different lights. They're LED, and the lights are permanent. So I guess when the bulb goes out, you gotta throw the whole thing away. The box says these fixtures have a 40-year lifespan, which I don't quite understand because I think they've only been on the market for about a year now. I highly doubt they started their testing back in the 70s to make that claim. After putting the garage door opener back on, the wall was done. I think I'm just going to leave the wood untreated for now. I mean, the whole rest of the barn was untreated wood, and that's lasted 80 years. So this should last until I'm dead, and then who cares? It's amazing how different the inside feels after getting this wall done. Since the barn is closed up now for the first time, when you walk in the front doors, it really feels like you're coming into a unique and contained space. Somewhere the deck gods can't find me.